Ren Hoek, the Asthma Hound Chihuahua, and Stimson J. Cat, the dim-witted kitty with a heart of gold, exploded on the television screens in 1991 as the stars of the Ren and Stimpy Show. This wasn't your average Saturday morning cartoon. Oh no, this Nickelodeon classic, the brainchild of animator John Kricfalusi, quickly gained notoriety for its unique and often disturbing brand of humor. Beloved by many for its bold animation and outrageous characters like Powdered Toast Man. The show also sparked controversy and faced censorship for its dark themes, adult humor, and shocking visuals. This is a video about how disturbing the beloved Ren and Stimpy cartoon was for our young, impressionable minds. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny here. And before we get into today's video, a fun video for today, please make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please make sure that you like this video, and please make sure that you share this video. Go ahead and, if you go to a place where there is a bunch of computers with access to the internet, just go on each and every single one of them, go onto YouTube, pull up my channel, hit play all, and that way we could get some exposure to all sorts of new fans, right? I think that will be that sounds like a good plan. You could do that at Costco, you could do it at the library, you could do it at work, a computer lab. It'll help out the channel. I appreciate it. It should come as a surprise to nobody that there is still robust fan discussions online about the Ren and Stimpy Show. And of course, who better to dissect the show's hidden meanings and analyze the characters' motivations than a bunch of weirdos on the internet? One popular fan theory suggests that Ren's aggression and Stim's dim-wittedness are a result of psychological trauma. Imagine those poor critters subject to who knows what before ending up, well, the bizarre creatures that they became. Certainly adds a whole new level of darkness to the show, doesn't it? Another theory suggests that Ren is actually a representation of John Kricfalusi himself, with the character embodying the animator's own struggles in mental illness and self-medication. Given Kricfalusi's own history and the allegations against him, this theory is also a particularly unsettling one. Some fans theorize that Ren and Stimpy were once beloved pets who, after a happy life, were buried together by their owner. This heartbroken owner grew up to become an animator and created the show as a tribute to his little furry friends. How sweet. Some fans have also gone so far as to suggest that the entire show was a social experiment designed to test the limits of television censorship and audience tolerance. Was John Kricfalusi intentionally trying to push buttons to see how far he could go? I think he probably was, depending on when you consider how strange of a character he was. Regardless of whether you believe these fan theories, they demonstrate that there is an enduring fascination with Ren and Stimpy. The show's disturbing themes continue to provoke thought and encourage debate. It's certain that the show has an incredible legacy amongst people who are millennials who grew up watching the show. Frankly, I can't believe my parents let me watch this show. It reveled in the grotesque with gross-ups of bodily fluids that would make your stomach churn and upset your mom. Exaggerated violence that made Itchy and Scratchy look tame, and disturbing character designs that could still haunt you to this day. Ren's psychotic breakdowns complete with bulging eyes and maniacal laughter. Stimpy's blissful ignorance in the face of utter chaos. And the often nightmarish situations in which they found themselves pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in children's television. Who could forget Powdered Toast Man? That one horse. All of the disturbing depictions of all of the adults in this show. All of these characters were weird. The cartoon loved getting weird, and it did so gleefully and lovingly. The show was controversial for its dark humor. Episodes like Stimpy's Invention explored themes of manipulation and control, with Stimpy forcing Ren to wear a happy helmet that brainwashes him into a state of manic joy. Remember that scene when Ren, overwhelmed by the helmet's influence, screams in terror as his brain swells and catches fire? Supposedly, Nickelodeon execs were less than thrilled with this episode, particularly with Stimpy's use of a duck to solder the helmet together. Maybe they were worried that children would see ducks as soldering guns. How about that scene in Sven Hoek when Stimpy gets repeatedly kicked in the head by a horse? Sure, it's funny, but it was still pretty disturbing to watch. And then there's the episode where Ren and Stimpy performed a rather suggestive dance to the Happy Happy Joy Joy song, complete with glorious inflated buttocks. And also that song would get stuck in your head, and now you probably are thinking it to this day. You're probably singing Happy Happy Joy Joy in your head right now. Happy Happy Joy Joy, Happy Happy Joy Joy. You're welcome. Even Kricfalusi himself initially thought that this episode was too much, but eventually he changed his mind and included it in the broadcast version. The show also took cartoon violence to a new level. Ren's violent outbursts towards Stimpy often involve slaps, kicks, and even strangulation. You'll recall, "You idiot!" And these were recurring themes. In one episode, Ren's best friend featured Ren brutally beating George Liquor with an oar. The episode was deemed to be too violent by Nickelodeon and ultimately led to Kricfalusi's dismissal from the show. If you sit and watch this show today, you'll notice that the characters were not consistent in their appearances or designs. The backgrounds and other aspects of the show were constantly changing. It was complete chaos. The show also interspersed adult humor throughout the episodes. They were often veiled in innuendo and double entendre, and there were moments that clearly went over the head of younger viewers. These dark themes and controversial elements led to numerous clashes with Nickelodeon. Episodes were edited, censored, and even banned from airing due to their content. The show's creators, however, saw this as a badge of honor, believing that it made children more resilient and capable of handling dark humor and disturbing situations. The Ren and Stimpy Show was a critical and commercial success, garnering praise for its unique animation style, offbeat humor, and memorable characters. Critics lauded the show's animation, with many comparing it to cartoon classics of the Golden Age. The show's willingness to push boundaries and embrace the grotesque were often seen as refreshing departures from the sanitized world of children's television. However, the show's dark humor and adult themes also drew criticism from parents and conservative groups. Some felt the show was too violent and vulgar for children. I mean, I watched this show constantly and religiously, and I ended up fine. So, others expressed concern about its potential psychological impact on young viewers. Like I said, I ended up fine. Who wouldn't want their kids to grow up just like me? Controversies surrounding the show contributed to the tension between Kricfalusi and Nickelodeon, which ultimately led to Kricfalusi being fired. Following Kricfalusi's departure, the show continued under games animation, but many critics and fans felt that the quality declined, with the humor becoming less sophisticated and the animation losing its distinctive edge. John Kricfalusi was the creative force behind Ren and Stimpy. He was a passionate animator with a deep love for classic cartoons. He sought to revive the spirit of the golden age of animation, with its emphasis on unique expressions, strong character poses, and a willingness to push boundaries. He was particularly inspired by the work of Bob Clampett, known for his zany and energetic animation style. Kricfalusi's vision for the show was one of constant experimentation and improvement. He encouraged his team to explore different animation techniques, incorporate bizarre humor, and create characters that were both repulsive and endearing. He believed that cartoons should be an escape from the spoon-fed morals of children's television, offering instead a world of zany, gross, and ridiculous humor. Interestingly, Kricfalusi's initial concept for the show was quite different from what eventually aired. Ren and Stimpy were initially conceived as supporting characters in a show called Your Gang, which focused on a group of children. However, Kricfalusi realized that the Chihuahua and Cat were the most interesting characters and decided to make them the stars of the show. Kricfalusi's commitment to quality and artistic freedom often led to clashes with Nickelodeon, as we talked about. He was notorious for missing deadlines, prioritizing the artistic vision over production schedules. I get that. Try to explain that to my boss, though, doesn't work out so well. Kricfalusi has also stated that his own childhood and his relationship with his father, a strict and manly man, influenced his work on the show. The influence can be seen in the character George Liquor, a blustering authoritarian figure who often serves as a foil to Ren and Stimpy's rebellious antics. Kricfalusi's passion for animation's desire to push boundaries extended beyond Ren and Stimpy. He also worked on Mighty Mouse New Adventures. Fun fact, bet you didn't know that. A show that also faced its own share of controversy for depicting drug use. The Ren and Stimpy show faced a significant amount of censorship and editing throughout its run. Nickelodeon was concerned about the show's controversial content, and they often intervened to tone down the violence, remove suggestive humor, and ensure that the show was suitable for its target audience. Kricfalusi was upset about this and often felt like his creative vision was being compromised. The censorship of Ren and Stimpy highlights the challenges of pushing boundaries in children's television. And while the show's creators sought to challenge conventions and entertain with their unique brand of humor, the network had a responsibility to ensure the content was appropriate for its young audience. This tension between creative freedom and censorship is a recurring theme in the history of animation, and Ren and Stimpy stands as a prime example of its ongoing struggle. The censorship of the show has had a lasting impact on its availability. Unedited versions of certain episodes are hard to find, and some are flat-out lost media. This makes it difficult and challenging for fans to experience the show in original form. The popularity of Ren and Stimpy extended beyond television, with the characters often appearing in various other media, including video games. Several games based on the show were released for platforms like Game Boy and Super Nintendo, allowing fans to interact with Ren and Stimpy in new and exciting ways. While the games varied in quality, they generally captured the spirit of the show with their offbeat humor and bizarre visuals. However, like the show itself, the games also face some criticism for their content, with some reviewers finding them to be too crude or simplistic. Despite these criticisms, the Ren and Stimpy video games represent an important part of the show's legacy. Ren and Stimpy transcended television and engaged audiences all over through different mediums. John Kricfalusi had an incredible influence on animation. He was a vocal advocate for a more classical approach to animation, criticizing modern animation schools for their emphasis on gesture drawing and their failure to teach fundamental concepts of construction and character. Kricfalusi believes that animation schools should focus on teaching students the principles of animation, established by the pioneers of the Golden Age such as Walt Disney and Bob Clamper. He argues that modern animation education often prioritizes style over substance, leading to a decline in the quality of animation. Kricfalusi's views on animation education have been met with both praise and criticism. Some animators agree with his assessment of the shortcomings of modern animation schools, while others argue that his approach is too rigid and fails to account for the evolution of animation techniques and styles. The Ren and Stimpy show had a significant cultural impact. It broke new ground in television animation, paving the way for shows like South Park, Family Guy, and Rick and Morty. It was a radical gamble that paid off, becoming an anomaly and savior in contemporary animation. The show's influence can be seen in the embrace of absurdity and gross-out humor in modern animation. Shows like Adventure Time owe a debt to Ren and Stimpy for their willingness to explore the strange and surreal. Ren and Stimpy also helped popularize the concept of creator-driven animation, with John Kricfalusi inspiring other creators to push for more control over their own shows, leading to a new wave of unique and innovative cartoons. Unfortunately, John Kricfalusi is a creep and a terrible person. Allegations of sexual misconduct against John Kricfalusi have cast a shadow over the show's legacy and have forced fans to grapple with the disturbing actions of its creator. This has led some to view the show's legacy as spoiled in retrospect. In fact, the allegations against Kricfalusi are extremely disturbing, and he is a alleged PDF file and a groomer. And the stories about him are available if you would like to go down that path and learn more about some of the sick and disgusting things that were going on at his studio and frankly were going on at Nickelodeon at the time. Ren and Stimpy had an impact on animation that could be seen in many different ways. For example, its animation style. Ren and Stimpy embraced a variety of animation style, including the classic rubber hose animation of the Golden Age to more experimental techniques. The eclectic approach influenced shows like the Powerpuff Girls. The show's willingness to embrace the absurd and grotesque paved the way for shows like SpongeBob SquarePants and Adventure Time, which incorporated grotesque and absurd humor in their storylines. Ren and Stimpy featured flawed and complex characters, including anti-heroes and unlikable protagonists. This paved the way for shows like BoJack Horseman and Rick and Morty, which explore the darker side of their characters' personality. The shows often challenged the traditional animation practice of adhering strictly to character model sheets. They encouraged animators to go off-model and experiment with more expressive and exaggerated animation, a technique that can also be seen in SpongeBob SquarePants. Ren and Stimpy utilize a variety of visual gags and stunts, including disgusting close-ups, exaggerated physical comedy, and bizarre imagery. In fact, if you watch an episode of Ren and Stimpy, there are so many close-ups of things that involve pus and zits and boogers and poop and all sorts of other disgusting things. It's completely wild, and you will see these episodes and you will be shocked that these are things that were presented towards children. After Kricfalusi was fired, the game's animation episodes were often seen as less creative and less funny, with the humor relying more on crude jokes and shock value. The show was revived as part of a show called the Ren and Stimpy Adult Party Cartoon, which aired on Spike TV and was met with even harsher criticism. Fans and critics alike felt the show had lost its charm and originality, with the humor becoming overly vulgar and the animation lacking any distinctive style from the original series. Ironically, Kricfalusi hated over-commercialization, but the show became a merchandising juggernaut. Kricfalusi had limited involvement with the merchandise and expressed regret over the show's commercial exploitation. However, Nickelodeon loved it. There is a documentary entitled Happy Happy Joy Joy, which explores the history of the show and its impact on animation. However, the documentary fails to handle the severity of the sexual misconduct and PDF file allegations against Kricfalusi, which it glosses over. Ren and Stimpy has a complex and multifaceted legacy. Its legacy is burdened by the fact that its creator was a disturbing, terrible person. It's also shocking to go back and see these scenes that were presented towards children in a children's show. The gross-out humor and dark themes are still shocking today for a children's television show. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Go ahead and follow me on Blue Sky and TikTok. My username is AKBrews. Make sure you're following me on Twitter also. My username is AKBrews. If there is a spooky story or disturbing story you would like me to cover, please send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super thanks button under the play thing at YouTube. Go ahead and click that and you can make a donation to the channel. Any money that this channel makes obviously is going to go back into the channel to do more things and make this channel better. I appreciate you watching my videos. I appreciate you supporting me. And of course, remember, stay spooky.